Hello, and thank you for joining me again today on the Finding Hope After Loss podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you like the show, please leave a review or rating on Apple or Spotify. It only takes a moment and really helps the show reach more loss and infertility families. As recording for Season 3 is about to begin, I would love to hear your opinions on the show. Are there any particular topics that you would like to hear? Are there any guests that you would like to see? Do you prefer the episodes shorter or longer? Basically anything, good or bad, that you have to share, I would love to hear your feedback. Feel free to email me at sarah@journeyforjasmine.com or reach out to me on any of my social media accounts at Journey for Jasmine. Today, I am talking with Carolina. She is a Reiki Master and womb healer that helps women heal their wombs to better be able to conceive. Carolina discusses how Reiki can help women heal. She also talks about her grief journey after losing her father and about her difficulty trying to get pregnant. Hello, everyone. Today I am here with Carolina. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Carolina Sotomayor. I am a Reiki Master and womb healer, or a Reiki womb healer. I help women heal their wombs so they can conceive their babies. I do that with Reiki. It is exactly how I conceived my son. I was struggling with grief after losing my dad. It was the start of my spiritual awakening. It was recommended to me to receive Reiki. And the next month I was pregnant. I was testing positive with our son, and who's now almost 7. And I received Reiki through my pregnancy, through my birth, and my postpartum. And it is that and talk therapy together is what I credit me coming out of my postpartum depression and my postpartum anxiety, and helping me heal from my very traumatic birth. I got attuned to Reiki, got certified in Reiki 1 and 2, which are the basic levels of Reiki. When my son was 6 months, I was 6 months postpartum. And I went on from there. I started my business probably a year later, still very thick in my postpartum. And I thought, if I'm healing my postpartum, I should help other women know that this Reiki is so powerful, that can be another tool in your toolbox when you're healing in postpartum and breastfeeding and with sleep deprivation. And whenever I would get a Reiki session in postpartum, it was very restorative for me. It made me feel grounded, and I didn't know necessarily how to ground myself yet at that point, without it. So, I went on to serve women. I'm based here in Omaha, Nebraska in the Midwest, and served women. I was mobile for a while. Then I was in a chiropractic office. And then right before the pandemic, I went online, and now I'm strictly online. You can find me on YouTube and TikTok. We have large following on TikTok. And a lot of women get pregnant from our videos. And as of yesterday, we just received notification of our 95th Reiki baby.
That's amazing.
I know, it's super exciting. We use Reiki to heal the womb because that's basically your emotional reservoir, your emotional safety, emotional security, your ability to feel your emotions, your passions, where it's not just for making babies, it's where your curiosities and your passion reside, and how, if you feel all of your emotions as they come up, or if you store them. So a lot of stuck emotions prevent women from conceiving. Now, if we've had losses, we connect them, and we use Reiki to do that with guided meditations and to honor the losses and to help heal any of a really important 2 things that coincide is with loss and with birth. There's so much extra stuff that happens, interactions and conversations with medical providers, conversations with loved ones, whether they were unintentional or not. There's usually some extra stuff that needs to be healed along with this, besides the loss of the baby. So we use Reiki to help de-trigger those and move it to, and we have like specific techniques to help process that. Or if there was like any surgical procedures or anything like that that's had to happen along the way with the loss, we use Reiki to physically remove that pain from the tissue, and also to heal on the emotional, spiritual, mental level, because Reiki is able to penetrate all layers of your aura, meaning like your total aura of like mental layer, physical layer, your physical body, your spiritual layer, your emotional layer. All of that gets healed at once when you receive the Reiki. And also helps heal your subconscious. With that can allow the woman to, and this is more than one session because healing is not a one-time event. This allows a woman to function, because a lot of us have to go back to work right away, or like allows her to breathe differently, take a full breath, allows her to function and live and be more grounded in who she is, so it's not so painful. It's not removing the memory, it's not rewriting the story, it's just de-triggering it so she can move forward in the way that she chooses and at the rate that she chooses.
I like that a lot. It's, because it comes up a lot that, grief is not something that ever just goes away, but it is something that we can learn how to manage. And so I think that's a great tool to help manage that and, shape it into something manageable that we can just carry with us instead of letting it like overtake us.
I think grief is an ugly animal that a lot of people don't understand. I've lost quite a bit of people in my life, but I have not had a miscarriage myself. I've had an abortion in my 20s. I did lose my dad, which started everything with my spiritual awakening, and which got me into Reiki, because I felt unsafe in the world after he died, and I was in talk therapy. It was at the suggestion of my therapist and at the suggestion of psychic medium. I get Reiki. They suggested in the same week. I went the next week, got Reiki, and then the following month I was testing positive with our son Ollie, and we are one and done. But it was the grief that was actually keeping me from getting pregnant, and the Reiki Master was able to confirm that. She's like, at first she couldn't really figure out what it was. She goes, did you get robbed? Because it feels like you got robbed. Like, it just like that word keeps coming up for me. And I was like, yeah, I got robbed of living a life with my dad. I got robbed of feeling safe. Like, I didn't feel safe. I was like, nothing makes sense anymore since he died. I got married the same year that he died, engaged and married the same year. And I said, I'm supposed to be this hot newlywed wanting to jump my husband's bones, and I have no libido, because the grief was very physical for me. And we got married in 2014, the end of 2014, and here we were in 2016, and we weren't able to conceive. And there was no reason why. They're like, your hormones are fine, you're physically fine, your period's normal, you're not diabetic, like every kind of test you think you could do, nothing. But I was kind of numb inside, and that's why they recommended the Reiki. And I had done the talk therapy. I was going to the talk therapist once a week. I had done EDMR. I had done hypnosis. And they're like, you need something other. So they either offered antidepressants or Reiki. I said, I'll do the Reiki. So I had done antidepressants in my 20s, and it wasn't for me. I was like, I don't want to do that again. It changed me completely. It was really hard with the side effects. So let me try this Reiki thing. And because I was already taking classes with the psychic medium about meditation, and I had a hard time understanding why my dad, how does somebody go from existing and being here or feeling them to not existing anymore? Was it like, poof, they're gone? So death is really weird, no matter. I think that is the word I always use, is bizarre. It's so bewildering to me. Like, and nobody talks about this. So whether you've lost a baby or whomever, it's just like, how does that soul go from existing, and maybe if you're feeling them inside your belly, or seeing them on a sonogram, or hearing their heartbeat, or for me was like receiving a phone call every day. How does that stop? What do you mean? What happens? Like, it's so hard for my human brain, my ego, I guess, to wrap around. So I was on a desperation streak to talk to my dad and become a medium. And through enough classes and through, I eventually got Reiki certified, and I was able to connect with my dad and able to have that stream of consciousness with him. But that curiosity is really led me to find the psychic, and also, continue to do the talk therapy, because I didn't want to be like my mom who lost a lot of people too, but she couldn't talk about it. I didn't want to fall apart and cry and sob like uncontrollably and not be in control of my emotions, or I wanted to live life calmly. I wanted to live life well. And I didn't want to do that with, being a hot mess every time I talked about losing someone, especially my dad. So Reiki really helped me open my womb and help me feel safe again, help me feel safe, probably the first time in my whole life to be safe in my body. And because of the Reiki, and I continue to get Reiki, I realized how unhealed I was. It allowed me to see, like, I thought I had everything together, and really I was just an emotional mess. Like, I had so much child abuse. I had so much SA that had happened in my 20s. I had so many mental abuse issues that I had to work through, that really Reiki changed how I parent, how I showed up for myself. It changed, helped me heal these deep wounds that the grief was hiding in front of, that was hiding behind the grief, that the grief was just a symptom. There was other things that were really fueling a lot of my behavior and the things that were really blocking me. But I didn't feel safe in the world because he died. And then this led me on this giant healing journey. And Reiki was my chosen modality. Other people have other modalities that they work with healing, but Reiki is what feels like home to me.
So for those who aren't familiar, how would you describe what Reiki is?
Oh, sure. Good point. So Reiki is universal life force energy. And just in case you don't know what it is, so think about like how the grass grows or how your lung expands, like that makes you alive, that is effortless, that makes you like, just like how my lips are moving right now and I'm speaking, and how my brain is moving and I'm thinking. All of that is life force energy that is making me alive versus the rock on the floor or on the ground. So that energy, that essence of life, is Reiki. What happens is anyone can become Reiki certified. And basically what happens is you can harness that energy through the palms of your hands, and you can give that in person. You can give it through distance. I do mine online. You can receive it in videos. The only thing is the person has to consent. You can't send Reiki to a person without them consenting, because their being will dispel it. So for me I was like, wait, after working with so many women, and as of yesterday, we have 95 Reiki babies to date, is everything goes back to the womb. Whether you feel safe or not, your parental relationships go back to the womb, things that you're curious about, things you're passionate about, your sexual energy, the portal to who you are, your everything you create from your life is from your womb. Because if you're curious about it, you'll go after it. If you're passionate about it, then you're going to pursue it. So all of the curiosities, always pay attention to them, because that's your womb. It's your soul trying to communicate with you. So with Reiki, it allows you to harness that energy that's already existing in the world for the purpose of healing, and focusing it on the 7 main chakras, which are energy centers. And with the energy centers, they're responsible for different areas of your life and for your body. Particularly for me, I focus on the sacral plexus chakra, which is your womb, which is responsible for all of those things. There's the root chakra, which is stability and what it takes to exist in the world, like car, money, scarcity versus abundance. Your heart chakra, how you give and receive love, how you love, what are your thoughts about love? What are your beliefs about love? Solar plexus, which is your sense of self and like basically your personal sunshine. How radiant are you? How confident are you? Your crown, which is your, ability to connect to higher self, universe, God, whatever your belief system is, receive wisdom from there. Your third eye, I'm totally not going in order. Third eye is your intuition and your ability to trust yourself. Your throat chakra is everything to do with communication and your power in your voice and whether you stand up for yourself and if you express your needs. And that's also has a direct line to your womb. So if you don't feel worthy, you're probably not going to express your needs, or you'll speak less, or you'll just whisper, or depending on how you believe with conflict, like how quiet you are. I believe that's all of them. So with Reiki, it aligns all of those chakras and all layers of your aura so you can heal in a very simple, holistic, strategic way. It's a very efficient way to heal. So it goes down into your cellular level, not just top down. With me, talk therapy wasn't enough. I was like, okay, like why? And it was because I needed the physical thing. I needed it out of my physical tissues.
I think that's something that so many of us don't even think about, when you're trying to, or when you're struggling to get pregnant. I mean, many people do get a diagnosis, but a lot of people get that unexplained diagnosis.
Right. I receive a lot of women who are trying to get pregnant and they're like, I've been trying for 4 years. I have this client now who's been trying to conceive for 5 years. And we did this micro healing program. It was a 2-week healing program. And it was called the Fertile Womb. And it was just basically especially for women who had PCOS, endo, or unexplained. And she conceived inside the container, but she had been trying to conceive for 5 years. There was nothing wrong with her. She was doing acupuncture. She'd been seeing like chiropractor. She had done Whole30. She was fit. Like there was no physical reason why. She had never had a pregnancy, so there was no losses. But for her, she ended up having an illness from when she was a child that we had to address. And that was the reason why she was not conceiving. When we started to, and because of that illness, she had behaviors that were repeating in her adult life. And once we addressed like the root cause of that event, the behaviors that she was experiencing that were hard to control in her adult life lessened. It didn't go completely away, but it became more manageable. And she's like, oh, wow, I feel so different. I feel lighter. It was the word she kept using. And within that 2-week container, she, on the last day, was like, I think you should test. And she said, okay, I'll let you know. And she turned out to be pregnant. And so it was just, it's amazing. So healing can happen fast or it can happen slow. It really is up to what your body is ready to do, what you have decided on to what depth. I always say, how badly do you want this? Because some people, I always say, do you believe this to the depth that you believe that gravity is real? And I put it in such literal terms for someone. They're like, it's a perspective shift of like, how badly do you want to make this change? Or how badly do you want to heal? Or how badly and how much you feel like this can happen for you? Because mindset and acceptance and readiness is all a thing when we're trying to conceive or when we're ready to let go of a narrative. Some people are really attached to sometimes like medical timelines. Like my mom is a really sick person. She has MS and uncontrollable high blood pressure. And we've talked about healing, and she's probably going to be the last person on the planet to heal because her identity and her storyline and her narrative is caught up in being sick. She gets attention for being sick. All of her attention comes from being sick. Her sympathy and love and swooning comes from her being the sick person. So who would she be if she wasn't sick? But so like also for me, when I was grieving, I was so done with being sad. I was so done with being the narrative of being devastated. I was so done. So I literally had told my husband when we were driving to the Reiki appointment, because I was one point, I had fallen off my horse. I was put on medical leave. So this was kind of like a God smack or universe's timeout was when we were trying to conceive. At this point, it's 2016, almost 2 years since my dad had passed. And that's when we were told to get Reiki, but I was on medical leave because I had fallen off my horse and I had a really gnarly concussion. And my memory was not coming back as fast as they had wanted me to. I couldn't drive. I couldn't be on the phone. I couldn't read. I couldn't be on the TV. So I got Reiki during that medical leave. And when we were driving to the appointment, my husband said, "What if this doesn't work?" Because the psychic medium said, if you want to get pregnant, you need to get Reiki. And the therapist had told me the same week, she goes, "You should get Reiki or you should get antidepressants because like you need to, like, you can't keep going like this." So for different reasons, I was recommended to get Reiki, but I said, the psychic, she might as well have been walking Jesus because she said to do something, I would have done it. And I was like, well, she said, I need to get Reiki in order to get pregnant. I need to open up my chakras. And I really didn't know what chakras were at that point. I said, but if this doesn't work, I'm okay with you and me. Like I felt a piece of like, I had to make a choice. I was like, I don't want to do IVF. And I remember the words coming out of my mouth. I remember the road we were driving out. I remember the house. I looked out the window and I looked at him and I said, I've suffered enough. And I felt like something shift in me when I said those words. And he looked at me, he's like, and then I asked, I said, am I enough for you? If this doesn't work, if we can't get pregnant, are we going to be okay with just us? And he said, yes. And then I said, but I really hope that this does work. And I think that because I was ready to let go of the sad girl story of losing her dad and step into like, I really wanted to have a baby. And I was really tired of being sad and depressed and broken. I think that readiness when I went into the session is what was the game changer. And because she wasn't a fertility anything, she was just a Reiki master and a massage therapist with a person who was going to massage me and do Reiki on me and be really nice to me and hold space for me. And I think that is one thing that but at that point, it's almost 2 years I've been the sad girl. So it wasn't fast. And I had been doing the work as I thought I was with a grief therapist.
Right.
So I think the storyline of what you want to tell yourself of like grief and stuff is really personal. Like, are you going to be ready? I wasn't ready probably before that moment.
I think it's so hard too to not get stuck in that grief. Because I was the same way as you, like, after losing my daughter, she was stillborn at 32 weeks. And, I'm like, I can't be sad anymore. And it's like, and it's not that it means like I wouldn't miss her or still be sad about her being gone, but it's like, I can't be stuck here for the rest of my life.
In like this state of being anymore.
Right. Yeah. The like crying all day, that. So yeah, I mean, I can completely relate, although they're different, types of loss. That grief is
different. They're different losses, 100%.
Yeah.
I think that's also, did you struggle with knowing, like just, I shut a lot of people out because I was annoyed with their either unintentional, inappropriate, or insensitive comments.
Yeah.
And about like, well, why aren't you smiling? Why aren't you wearing makeup? And like, you don't know what it took for me to get here today. I used to have like a corporate job, and I was like, my husband would literally be like pulling me out of bed. He goes, you need to shower today. You need, like, you're going to, like, he would put the toothpaste on my toothbrush. There were days like that, many, many, many days that were like that.
Society just expects us to like, go back to normal. Like, okay, you've grieved now, like go be your other self. So we don't have to like hear about the loss all the time, so we don't have to see your sad self, like just be normal again.
People are uncomfortable with sadness. Like people are really uncomfortable with sadness. They don't know how to handle. I noticed like just different periods of my life is that people don't know how to handle trauma, sadness, or grief. So if they don't know how, usually they disappear. Or if they are persistent, bless those people that are persistent, because I think that takes a lot of heart. to be persistent with a person, you know, they get it right. And sometimes people just don't have the skills or know what to say, like knowing what to say. So, and not knowing, like, not, you don't have to fix it. Just take me to lunch and listen to me. Let me just talk about it because this is my reality. This is what I'm feeling. This is real for me. Even though this happened 8 months ago, I'm still in it, you know?
Right. Yeah. For us, it's like every day you wake up like missing that person. It's not like, you know, oh, I don't think about them anymore. Like it's been a year. I'm good now.
No, I always tell like women who are like who are like, what can you do to support the woman who has a loss? Follow up with her at 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and you just consistently, without fail, you're going to put something on your calendar and you're going to ask her for lunch. You're never going to stop asking. Be like, I want to pay for you. I want to take you out. What if I brought you lunch? And I want to talk to you. I just want to sit with you. Don't try to fix anything. Just listen.
I wish more people understood how powerful just doing that is. You know, and even
Yeah,
if they say no, don't, like you said, don't give up, keep asking. Because one day
because
they
it's going to
will say
be,
yes.
they will say yes one day. And I think that also that just applies with, I think grief again, like we've stated, like grief is personal. It's different how long you grieve, and you never stop grieving. You never stop missing. But I think also it's like understanding that it applies to everyone. So no matter what grief or trauma, like, or if I had postpartum, I was really lonely and everyone left. But if I had had one person to ask me out for lunch or understand, like, well, can you just come visit me? Can you just bring me coffee? I would love to hold your hand. I would just, maybe I want to hear about your day. I want to hear about did you argue with your husband, or are you dating anyone new, or just something different? Because maybe I don't want to talk about me that day. But I think that it applies to any woman that is hurting. Do it. Just be that person that's like, I'm going to follow up. I'm going to be in it. Don't fix it because you can't.
I feel like a lot of the topics related to motherhood, like, you know, struggling to get pregnant, like pregnancy loss, sometimes pregnancy itself, and then the postpartum period, they're all like kind of times when the woman can just be abandoned by everybody.
100%. I lived in a state where I didn't know anyone other than my husband and his family and my work friends. My work friends were not very mature. So I lost my village that I thought I had spent a lot of time investing in building. And I just learned that my relationships were shit. Like they were very shallow. And I'm like, this is never going to happen again. And then I just started writing down like the things and qualities of people. I was like, I know who I am. Like, I know I'm changing, but I know like what kind of friend I show up for you. And I prayed and I told the universe, I told my husband, it's like, one day I'm going to have friends that are going to love me, that love you, and love our child. And that no matter how hard it is, like they're going to show up. And I prayed. It didn't come for a few years because the Midwest, it's really hard to integrate if you're a transplant. Like I'm from the East Coast, I'm from Miami. So I didn't have high school friends here. I didn't go to college here. It's really like I didn't have a school age child to break in and have an icebreaker, even though I was super extroverted at the time. So it took a while, but I tried different avenues, Lolly J League, natural parenting groups. I did a few play dates from daycare, Montessori, that kind of thing, but it took a while. But the friends that I have now, they're definitely like quality, high value people who do check in on me, you know, like, so don't give up on finding that village. You don't need many, you just maybe need 1 to 3. I'm
It is
40 now.
hard.
I realize I just need a few. You don't need a litter of friends anymore. You just need a few.
I actually had the same kind of situation. Like we live in Georgia now, but we are from Texas. So like my whole family's
Oh,
there, like everybody's there.
it's
So, you
hard.
know, I had my surprise baby last year. And yeah, I had nobody
Congratulations.
here like to help with the
Yeah, it's a
older
big
kids. And
transition.
so And yeah, we moved here right before COVID. So like we didn't know many people. We weren't really like going anywhere. So, and
Oh
you
my
know, to
gosh,
your
that
point
must have been
too,
even more isolating. I didn't even think about that. People who moved during COVID.
we moved in January of 2020. Everything shut down in March. So like we just got here, and then it was like, well, what do we do now?
You know? Oh goodness. I uh I I find that if you don't have, there was times where I didn't have anybody, and my mom lived far away, and my dad had been, obviously has been deceased. It was like I clung to my husband, and he was drowning too. Um, and his family was very loving, but didn't know how to handle me, postpartum. Um, and I was very like, I'm only okay if I'm with my baby. So I didn't need people to take him from me. I needed people just to share space with me. But like let me share space with who I am now, not like the manic high achiever before, because I was totally like, I'm slow now. Postpartum, I learned to sit with myself. So um try online groups. Try TikTok wasn't a thing back then because this was 2016. TikTok has some amazing like followers that can really validate you. You can find a lot of support, even if it's not, the support of a mom, but like there's so many like different ways to fill the gaps until you do have that friend. And I love TikTok for that reason. Like there's so many like wholesome, great creators on there that can really make you like, to remind you to eat, to drink your water, to, that today's not the worst day, that like it's going to pass. If today is the worst day, then it's going to pass. And like tomorrow is going to be okay. And like, I don't know, I love Mama Tot. So that is just like a hack until, the person that you pray for, the person that you hope for, the person that you're manifesting, that bestie, and never stop trying. So I think it's really important. I think with grief, you need lifelines. And if you don't have it, you're going to have to search it.
Yeah, and I definitely think online is good. Like,
I think online is great. Yeah.
with people that you would not be able to be connected with otherwise.
No, I agree 100%.
So I'm curious, do you deal with a lot of people who are skeptical of what you do?
Sometimes I kind of have this energetic barrier that where like, I just ask you that you're ready to conceive and come to me and you're ready to heal. And then I will meet you where you're at. I believe in education, super important. I move as slow or fast as you want me to if we're working one-on-one. I have a membership, Make a Baby membership, and that's self-led, self-paced. And we have 2 calls a month, a healing call and an office hours call. And I will explain everything that you want me to explain. And but I don't, especially if it's like one-on-one, it's usually like they're curious. Usually if this person's skeptic, they're curious enough that I don't try to convince anyone. What happens is spirit then on the spiritual realm says like, all right, we're going to show up in really big ways. I'm an evidential medium, so I'm able to channel or give pieces that are validating enough for them to like, oh, she's a real deal. But basically, I've only had to do this twice, and it's been a really long time, like years. So maybe not since like 2020 or 2021, is that like where I end a session, I'm like, this is not a good fit. Let me refund you. People don't come at me like that anymore, unless they're in the YouTube comments. YouTube comments are wild. It's like next level, keyboard warriors over there.
Like people
But
forget that, they need to be decent human beings sometimes.
oh no, it's
In the
disgusting, usually men. So it just like
enough said.
I know, I say thanks for boosting me further into the algorithm. So I lost my train of thought. So I think it's really I just keep remembering the word. They're such trolls. What was the question?
we're talking about like skeptics, and you're talking about how
Oh,
you
the skeptics.
end
So
a
yeah, I
couple of
usually just
sessions.
refund them because they're like, is this real? Then I can't work on you. Like usually like I have to tap in at the beginning of a session. So I do Reiki every session. I need to be able to tap into your chakra, see what's open and closed. And if I can't tap in, I'll end the session, which means like they're guarded. They're not letting me in. And energetically, I can feel that. And that's only happened twice. Again, that was like 2 years ago. And that was like when I was just hitting probably 10K on TikTok or something like that. And 10,000 followers at the point. Like when I hit around 10,000 followers, that's when like it was crazy town for a while. So I got a lot of spammers. It was really wild. But yeah, what I have is enough free content, and I'm just not a regular run the meal healer. Watch my content. If I'm for you, I'm either for you or not. I'm very polarizing personality. Either you love me or you don't. And that's like as if you met me in person or online. You'll either like me or you don't. Most of the time people do. Especially because I can put people at ease. I'm really good at what I do. This is not my hobby. I quit my 6-figure corporate job to do this full time. And I help women when they're ready. So usually the women that I serve are women who are coming to me because they're ready. They're ready for something different. I don't believe Reiki is a replacement for medical treatment, and anyone that says so you should run from. Reiki is a complement to anything you're doing with your doctors, anything with your therapist. It doesn't interfere with medication. It actually will allow you to have better outcomes. So like the Mayo Clinic now has Reiki, like they do Reiki before. And some of the Mayo clinics, if they do Reiki before surgery, they have shown that they have better outcomes for surgery than just doing it post. So Reiki actually allows you to raise your vibration and force out anything that's negative or lower vibration, like fear, blame, shame, guilt, abandonment, unworthiness, things like that. Whereas Reiki is the frequency of love, which is a 528 hertz. So anything that is lower than that, because it's the life force energy frequency, will come to the surface. And a result of that is you can feel lighter because it's expelled, or you might feel it as it is leaving you.
So I'm guessing it's something that can help also with like postpartum depression and anxiety too.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened with me. Is I continued to get Reiki. I got in-person Reiki, and it was done on a massage table. So it was done in person, or you can do it online. It's just as powerful as both. But again, when I was doing this was 2016, 2017, 2018. So with that, what happened is my imbalances and my really strong spikes and like episodes of where I was like panicked and things like that, it allowed me to even it out. And the more consistently I got it, the less of those episodes I had, the more I felt like a normal person where I could function. Because I worked in a manufacturing plant at the time. I was a quality assurance person. So I had this demanding job, which was very masculine energy. And I had to be like on my game. And then I had this baby, and I was breastfeeding, and I had postpartum anxiety and depression, where I'm just like, wow, this is a really fun go, and still processing my birth. So Reiki allowed me to have like it grounded me. And I think if you've never felt grounded, you don't like, you just feel like, okay, peaceful, whole, aligned, like you feel like everything's going your way, even if it's not. Like you feel like I'm good. Like that feeling was a very foreign feeling, but it felt good to me during that, like as I started to heal. And as I started to heal and things came up with the Reiki, and the Reiki master talked to me during the session. A lot of Reiki masters don't. And then I would take what we talked about from the Reiki session to my talk therapist, and we would go deeper into these issues. Like we dove deeper into my childhood trauma, and that a lot of the postpartum things that I was healing or confronting or that were coming up for me were not directly related to the postpartum period life. It was from unhealed things from my past, because I was so sleep deprived. I was so hungry. I was so thirsty. All the things of like breastfeeding. And I was working 60 hours a week. All of these things. It was, if you're vulnerable like that, the ugly monsters of your past will rear their ugly heads up. And Reiki just provided stability for me in a physical way that I really desperately needed, that I wasn't getting anywhere else. And no pill could have given me. Every session I fell asleep, she would massage and do Reiki, and I would snore. I was so exhausted, and it gave me boosts of energy where I was like, okay, I would go like sometimes every other week, sometimes just once a month, depending on what I could afford. So it allowed me again also to breathe differently.
I think these are like all the things that you don't normally think about. You don't think about the way you breathe. You don't think about like your past things that happened in your childhood, like affecting you now. You know, it's just like all these things that you don't think about, and we just, go to
to be super vulnerable. I think what I struggled the most with in my postpartum was, I had this beautiful baby that I had endured a 23-hour labor for, and had a really traumatic C-section and attempt at a vaginal birth. And just and ended up in NICU. I would hold him, and I worked so hard at breastfeeding because it almost couldn't. And it was the only thing I had to control left that I really wanted. I just felt like so unworthy of this child that I looked at and I had prayed for and I had wanted so much. And I felt so much guilt from having an abortion. And so I get so much hate for that. But the thing is that people make choices, and it doesn't mean that they're not going to go ahead and conceive later. And I think that, and I'm sorry if my story hurts anyone, because it's very controversial to speak about, especially in a fertility space. But there are a lot of women who do have abortions that hide in shame. And nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to end a pregnancy. And I think that there's so much that comes from that was a huge problem in my postpartum that came up. And then my childhood trauma, and then my essay. So there was like so much that came up in my postpartum. And again, I was in my spiritual awakening, but it was just a really ugly, rough time. But there were also happy moments there too. There was a lot that was going on, but I still had to function. I was the breadwinner of our family. I was lucky. I got to stay home 4 months with him, but then he got to go to daycare. I had super severe separation anxiety from him. Because of all the trauma, I felt like I was the only one that could protect him from the world or save him, or that he was only safe with me. He was fine. But my severe overreaction to things was very much there. But with the Reiki and the therapy together, it lessened over time. I had to get practice at being a mom. I had to get practice living life with him outside my body and trusting other people. And I had so much more practice of being in control, or thinking I was in control. So what did it look like now to feel safe and understand shit's going to happen? I'm not in control. I can communicate effectively to the daycare workers. I can provide the breast milk. I can pump at work, and that's good enough. And just reshaping. I know that's so much different than loss, but living life after grief is important too. And figuring that out, and just understanding when the therapist put it in, you've had a lot more practice of pretending or having the illusion of control versus you really don't have control at all, but you can do as much as you can and heal that you don't have control. Because the thought of control made me feel safe. The thought of control made me feel grounded, but really that was fake. That wasn't real. How do I really feel grounded? How do I really feel safe? And it was not assuming. It was having good communication. It was making time for my grief still, making time for healing, which was I did not miss a Reiki appointment. I did not miss a therapy appointment. I did not miss a pumping session. So it was really all of those things. So postpartum is kind of like grief. It's very unique to the person. Like some people have easy postpartums. They're like, I didn't like, I saw, we went to Olive Garden probably a month ago. I saw a mom come in with twins and they were little. And I was like, dude. And Ryan's like, that was not us. That was my husband's like, that was not us. We didn't leave the house for like a year and a half. Us in a restaurant after he was born. That was not us.
That was not me either. So much respect to her, especially with two of them.
There was two of them in the baby carriers. I was like, she looks good too. She was wearing jeans, had makeup on, her hair was done. I was like, bro.
You're like what we all aspire to be, but many of us will not be.
I was like, that was not my reality, but that's okay. But kudos for you for like, you know, getting your lasagna at Olive Garden. I still love Olive Garden. Don't come for me. I love Olive Garden.
I love it too.
A lot of people are like, that's not real Italian food. Controversy.
Okay, well,
Mustard.
whatever it is, it's delicious. Okay.
It's delicious, right?
You can't beat like their breadsticks.
Maybe they'll go there tonight.
I know, now I'm like, I'm kind of hungry. So if people wanted to find more information about you, where would they go for that?
TikTok and Instagram are where I'm most active. It's the Carolina Sotomayor is my handle, or you can go to carolinasotomayor.com. If you're interested in the podcast, you can check out makeababypodcast.com. And you can find the podcast on all major platforms. And if you want to work with me, the Make a Baby membership, I can give you the link. It's put in the show notes. You can try the membership for free for 3 days to see if it's for you. If not, cancel at no obligation, no worries. We'd love for you to come and try that out.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all of your amazing insight with us.
Thank you for having me. I love sharing space with you.
Thank you so much, Carolina, for sharing your story and this great information with us. I will admit that I didn't really know much about Reiki in general before today, and I feel like I have a better understanding of it now. I also think it's really interesting to hear how everyone's grief journey is so different and can take us all in such different directions. And sometimes it can be really hard to pick ourselves up and climb back out of the dark hole that we can find ourselves in. I think it's important to be open to trying new things, even if they may seem a little out there to some people. You really never know what thing could be the thing to help bring you back and help you work through your grief. Always remember, if you feel your grief is too much to handle, please reach out to someone for support. Don't suffer alone, because you never have to. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you like the show, please leave a review or rating on Apple or Spotify. It only takes a moment and really helps the show reach more loss and infertility families. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, we are all in this together.